You're listening to Surely a Mystery, straight from Long Beach Island, New Jersey. We're here to share with you all the spooky, scary, and mind-bending enigmas that make up the Jersey Shore. I'm your living host, Anna, here with some mystery, history, and a few tips to proper ghost hunting. So why don't we get started? Young children dying before their parents is oftentimes hard to deal with, and usually it's due to something very tragic. In the past, it could be tuberculosis or some cold or flu that developed into pneumonia. They would die in a drowning or broken bones that got infected. Very rarely would it be murder or maybe a case of arson. War is always an issue, but not too many young children die that way. In the history of the U.S., many young children died to illnesses that today we have vaccines for, or it could be taken care of with some simple medical treatments. If you search many graveyards in New Jersey, there will be some small stones, often with only initials or the word baby. Many were buried, and oftentimes many were not even buried, especially if it's right after birth and the family did not have the child baptized. Ghost children are mostly seen in areas where they suffered a quick death or they themselves had no idea that they were dead. Yep, makes sense. You're suddenly dead, and now what? No white light or red glow calls you because it's so quick that you might have missed it. In the end, you are caught where you died. I think that many of these types of hauntings are more interactive, and only a few of these are sort of repeating history. A child's death is memorable for both the family and to the local area. It often will cause memorials to be erected for these ghost children, or tall tales will sprout out about the deaths of the children. So for this episode, I chose 5 really good cases of child ghosts in New Jersey, which you can even attempt to experience for yourself. The last one of these, I believe, falls into the ghost children category, since the child left the care of his mother. Yes, it's the Jersey Devil. I mean, he was still a newborn baby of some sort. So let's start with the first one. The Atco ghost child is one that many say that you can actually call into existence. In Atco, on Burnt Mill Road, which dead ends literally near some kind of factory, which has large trucks coming in and out once in a while, one December 25th, yes, that's Christmas night, a young boy was supposedly playing with a ball. Many say that he was bouncing a basketball and it got away from him. Being focused on the ball, he didn't hear the car that was racing toward him. I might have thought it would be a truck from the plant, but most of the tales talk about just a speeding drunk driver who does a U-turn when he realizes that he hit a kid. The person literally drove by the dying child, who was across from his house, or at least the house that he came from. What kind of human does that? Get that you might be scared. I can understand that, but it still doesn't say that you are a good human. I think that the drunk driver does make sense. They probably took a wrong turn, realized it was a dead-end street. I believe that it did or could have happened like that. I think anytime after the 1950s. I still believe the truck is not an option, since the U-turn and it being Christmas. I really don't think the factory was probably working on a Christmas day. Now, if you want to see the ghost, according to many who have tried and succeeded in seeing the little boy ghost, the first way is to drive near the end of the road, pull off to the side, kill the engines, kill the lights, get slowly out of your car and start to walk away from your car back the way you came. Then suddenly stop and turn back to your car. Many say that a number of things could happen. A mist will suddenly appear, and then you'll see the little boy. You could see a little boy walking towards you, but it seems like it never quite gets to you. Now, the second way, some say you can also get him to reappear if you simply do a U-turn at midnight on that stretch of road. That will allow him to be angry enough that you're going to leave him to die again in the road, just like the original person who hit him. You will see him come straight at you, but at the same time, it doesn't look like he's really moving any closer to you. I have to be honest, it does bother me a little that you want to torment the soul of a child who is trapped in a place where he died. I am thinking that at some point, he's going to get angry enough and cause you to crash into a tree or get injured. You don't know how conscious this ghost really is where he's at in his mind. Could a ghost become cognizant of time? Does he even realize how long he's been dead? What thought would or could go through his mind? Could he even seek some kind of revenge? I'm just kind of putting those thoughts out there. These people for years are tormenting him and torturing his soul. I guess that some ghosts should not be made as a plaything for kids or tourists. But that's just my opinion. You can do whatever you want and even try to make contact with him. I've not heard of people going out there with real ghost hunting tools to make contact. Maybe you should try that. The next ghost child resides in West Milford in Passaic County. There are several versions of this tale, so I will tell you all of them, and then you can decide which one sounds the most believable to you. I personally think that because there are so many tales, that something had to actually have happened there, and that there has to be some grain of truth in all the tales. My graduate school professor said that there's always some truth in every stereotype or tale because it had to have actually started somewhere. Over time, it is a big game of telephone tag. Also, I've had to add that locals who might have known the family or child might want to downplay or even upplay what happened to sort of ease the pain of the tragedy. There are 2 bridges on Clinton Road in its 10-mile stretch of long, lonely, and horribly paved roadways, which has several extreme curves. The one farthest from Dead Man's Curve is the one we're talking about right now, though I have heard that both of the bridges are truly haunted. So this young boy did one of the following. He either drowned while swimming near the bridge, challenged his friends to stand on the bridge as cars went by, but when they returned, he was dead below. He tried to pick up a coin on the bridge and got accidentally hit by a car, or he was playing or picking up some kind of ball and got hit by a car. The most common thing is that he was hit for a car, for the most part. I could see some joyriding person in a car speeding through the bridge and hitting him accidentally. They might not have even known that they did. It could have happened so fast that he died and literally left his soul behind. Another commonality of the tales of this boy is that if you toss a coin off the bridge, the water might return your coin within 24 hours, or you might hear it hit the water for a second time, almost like a strange late echo, like a ripple in time. Coins could have been in his pocket when he was struck or fell from the bridge if he wasn't picking up a coin off the ground. That would be like a real ghost hunting device that is looking for some reaction, verbal or even emotion. It would take a lot of energy. I would maybe use a coin or coins on the bridge to call the ghost. I might place it near a detector of some kind to see if there's any motion around it. You don't need a car for this investigation, just some equipment maybe leave a recorder overnight, or even a trail camera in a place which has both a view of the bridge and the side near the water. I can't help with which side he supposedly went off. And the interesting thing is that near the same area, there is the ghost girl in the Camaro. Apparently, in 1988, she'd got a new car and was very young. She drove too fast, or some say was fleeing the police because she was driving so fast, and crashed near there. The water and the reservoir provide the ghosts with great sources of energy, but it could also just make it look spooky. Mist and other floating steam when the temperature varies between the water and the air. So, playing devil's advocate, maybe some of the ghosts are nothing more than the water in the air. The next two places are indoors, and the ghosts are actually completely unidentified. People have no idea who these children are in history, but there are enough people who have witnessed them that you can't deny that these children are haunting these particular places. Dr. William Shippen was the owner and operator of Oxford Furnace Iron Company. He sent his son Joseph to supervise the properties. In about 1760 to around 1765, they constructed and lived in Shippen Manor in Oxford, New Jersey. They were generous men. They opened up the basement kitchen sort of as a mess hall for the furnace workers. Now you have to understand, Joseph was supposedly a die-hard bachelor who was sent there because he had no desires for a real job or path in life. And he continued the bachelor life, I think, only in name. Although he never married, he did have a long-term paramour with whom he had 7 children. However, none of his children could be the ghosts since they all lived until the Civil War. At some point, Charles Scranton lived there. If you've ever heard of Scranton, Pennsylvania, he and his family were the founders of that city. During the Civil War, Charles and some of the others who lived there actually enlisted and died in the early battles, leaving the house eventually to the Selden family. Sometime after the Civil War, it became a boarding house until the 20th century. There was even a post office on the property, but in 1882 the post office actually burned, and parts of it were used to make some of the walls of the building, which are still standing. In the early 1900s, the Sterling Galt Valentine lived there with his family. He had several children. Although many of these owners had children, I can find no records of deaths of young boys or girls. The census records accounts for all those who lived there as some kind of full-time owner or guest. But that certainly doesn't mean that there weren't illegitimate children, children of the housekeepers, or people that worked at the furnace iron company. Well, the widow the last owner sold it in 1974 to the state of New Jersey. Then it took nearly 10 years of repairs before they actually opened it to the public. After it opened to the public, and while it was being repaired, strange things began to happen. Suddenly, these uncatalogued items, and I mean ones that had never been processed or inventoried, suddenly started to appear in weird places. And usually they'd appear backwards. And even cataloged items would be turned around when people got back to work the next day. That was both annoying and worrying. I mean, where are these items coming from? Is there like a time portal? Did they suddenly appear where they might have been a long time ago? Many of the doors would suddenly open in the wrong direction. Could that be the ghost telling them that the pattern and the flow of the house was suddenly wrong? Ghost hunters came there in 2010 to investigate the house, and they found out that many of the claims were real. They even happened to them and on tape. The young boy in period clothing with bright blue eyes, they believe he's around 4 or 5 years old. He's usually seen outside and sometimes inside. And the child is the only one, including probably they believe Joseph, who's actually seen. The difficulty with this child is if people could certainly make out the figure in time period clothing, well, what time period? Because we could follow the clues of that time period and check out what class of the population he is, what type of clothes it is, and the style. So maybe we could make a prediction about who the child actually is. Is it a friend of the family who came to visit? Is it the cook's child? Is it some poor delivery boy who got run over by a horse? That could totally help. The next is the Hotel Somerset. In the United States, it is the oldest continuous hotel and has been around since 1748. It's also been McCormick's Pub, and even George Washington ate regularly there with his men. He didn't sleep there, only his men did. One of the things that made it famous was that in 1926, at the Halls Mills murder trial, part of it was held there, and some of the people involved actually stayed there during the trial. The current owners said that in the last 40 years, approximately about 5 people have died in the hotel. One even jumped to their death off the roof. This place has been investigated by many private ghost hunting groups because the people who live there are reporting that they actually feel violated. Now, what do I mean? Some of the people staying there suffer from PTSD. These poor people, some war veterans, don't really like being tickled by a ghost. Some say that their shoes will be rearranged or go missing for a while. Yes, I did say they had their feet tickled. It has become a not so nice joke that the ghost might actually have a foot fetish. There are so many jokes about the happenings, but think about it. How would you like to be asleep and just laying in your bed, maybe even just watching TV, and suddenly your feet get tickled? What if you don't like that? What about just the plain shock that it even happens? How would you like it? And if it really bothers you and you can't stop the person from doing it, that would bother me even more. Others have talked about how it's like every childhood horror nightmare movie where there must be a creature under the bed. You look and there's like a hand outstretched or even a face from under the bed. Kids do these kind of things. After all, people say that there are 3 different children who haunt the place. One little girl seems to be the tickler. The boys seem to be more of sort of the scary ones. They like to hide and say boo kind of things. The owners and the investigators have come in honestly, and they have found specific evidence for Dorothy E. Epwright. She was a waitress in 1954, and she probably haunts the place along with the children. The children themselves, nothing. Frankly, it could be any child that stayed there, any child who got sick and died there, any scamp who tried to steal money from anyone there. I think that since it's a tickling thing, that they probably might have lived there for a while. They would be less likely to do it to sort of random strangers in their lifetime. So it makes sense. But without names and no idea of the possible ages, it is super hard to research which of the many children who live there. I honestly like to find evidence of a haunting, then try and prove that there really was once a real person who fit the possibility of the ghost. It gives you a sense of finding a reason for why they're still haunting the place, and a sense that, frankly, you're not going crazy. Now, the time that I promised all of you who love the Jersey Devil, and not the hockey team. Also, those of my listeners who actually have no idea what or who the Jersey Devil is. So, of course, I'm going to start with the most honest and true history of Mother Leeds, and then once the birth happens, I'll let you decide and make up your own opinions, and then you can choose which story you really believe. Let's start with the historical facts. Some of these things you need to understand because it helps to shade the whole development of the Jersey Devil folklore and the legend from the very beginning. Benjamin Franklin had a genuine rival in another publisher named Daniel Leeds. They were both Quakers, but Daniel challenged some of their religious ideas, and he even had a strong commitment to their king in England. He lost it at a Quaker meeting and even used what they considered foul language. And then to make matters worse, he wrote a book called The Temple of Wisdom, which was about angels, astrology, and devils, of all things. It was drawn on the works of a German mystic named Jacob Boehm. That made matters way worse. When he printed it, he put his family crest on it, and there were wyverns in it. Wyverns basically look like baby dragons or flying devil demons, or what we think the Jersey Devil looks. In 1738, his son Titan Leeds took over the business. And interestingly enough, he takes it over around the same time the Jersey Devil legend begins. Now, Daniel did have 3 wives, not all at the same time, and he did have 9 children. Unfortunately, some of his children were mentally disabled, so he did suffer a lot of public ridicule about his children, and especially about his beliefs. His connection could be that he had a child named Japhet Leeds, who died in 1736. And in his will, which is record in the state, he left his estate in Leeds Point to his 12 children. Now, I can't find what his wife's name is, but some say that it could be Deborah or Jane. And she could be the quote-unquote mother Leeds of Estelville in the Pine Barrens. He did have 12 children, and he was out of the area often in Philadelphia. So it would make sense that his wife, giving birth on a stormy night to a 13th child, that she really didn't know if she was going to be able to handle all these kids being alone. So why not curse the child and her plight? Some say he was born 1735, others say in the 1730s. According to the will, I'm going to say that was probably 1735 is about a highly probable date. Mother Leeds could also be a nickname in that she was a mother with 12 kids, or that she was a midwife in the area, or some kind of healer. But her 13th child was born. It was a male and healthy by all accounts. However, they state over time it changed into some kind of deformed devil. I can think of some illnesses that once the baby comes out, it would change in how it looked. But there's no way that baby is going to change into a kangaroo-like creature with the face of a horse, the head of a dog, bat wings, horns, and, of course, a tail. If it were just a tail, maybe I could prove that, because there's actually a family in India who all have tails. We as humans at some point did have a tail. So the creature then decided to flee, either out of the window, which was open, or up the chimney. But it did hurt a few of the children. But if Japhet Leeds gave all of his money to 12 children, he obviously didn't kill any of them. So what was the poor creature to do? My mom hates me, my siblings are afraid of me. I have nowhere to go to, and it's the middle of nowhere in the Pinelands. So the stories start. Raiding chicken coops, destroying crops, and even killing children. I can understand that. But nobody sees it, and Mother Leeds and her children make no record of the child after its birth. In 2020, Expedition X with Jessica and Phil did go up the Maluka River and started at what's left of the old Bodine Tavern, which now is nothing more than rocks. I agree with some of the possibilities of what the Jersey Devil could be according to them, but I do have issues about the legend in general. It seems to come in waves. What I mean, it seems that Jersey Devil sightings come in waves, documented waves. So we have the birth in the 1730s, and then in the 1820s, Napoleon's brother Joseph, who was literally in exile in the United States, saw the winged creature at his estate. Then again with documentation in 1909, the 1930s, and it even made Jersey Devil New Jersey's only state demon. In 1960s in Camden, they approved a $10,000 reward for a private zoo to capture the devil alive. Expedition X does the show simply because in the 2020s there was a whole crop of new sightings. And those are the trends that I can find without really doing heavy research. It looks like approximately 30 years or so, the creature wakes up, is seen, heard, and or experienced. Is it something that hibernates? Does it portal between times, places, or something else? Could it be a family of creatures? So that's why the sightings are similar, but not exactly the same. Besides, what creature would be almost 300 years old by now? I know that the Lenape do talk about strange animals in the Pinelands, but I can't seem to find anything that's quite like the Jersey Devil. Alright, if it were a mutant bat, or a bat that mated with a local species and created this new creature, okay, that's possible. Absolutely possible. The Maluka River was a major waterway, which had boats with things from all over the world. Any manner of creature could have been on board, or the creature could have even stolen an egg and brought it as a treasure to sell or give to a family member. So yes, a horsehead bat from Africa could have made it here in the summer, mated with a local female bat, and then died in the winter, but his offspring survived. They were altered, mutated, or hybridized. Why not? Absolutely can believe it. You could go dinosaur. It could be because most people moved in this area. Maybe it was some dinosaur that simply was left behind and trying to live here. Maybe like Jurassic Park. It was a female who laid an egg so the species could continue. Maybe it's a pair. One hunts, one stays in the lair guarding the baby. This could simply be an unknown species, something that we haven't identified, or maybe an offshoot of a branch of some known species. I hate to say it, but the last two possibilities, well, not really something that most people are going to accept. So let's do the easiest one. A demon. Could it really be a demon? A mythological religious creature that may or may not exist. If it is a real one, then it plays with a whole new set of rules that are different depending on what type of demon it is and why it's trapped on our plane. What is its purpose? That could cover all different types of things and the timing. Let's just say that there's one thing left. Yes, I'm going to go there. An alien creature. A real life alien creature that maybe crashed on Earth and was stuck. This creature looks so different because in its home planet, that's what it looks like to be normal. Here, it's an abnormality. Maybe the creature hibernates or molts and is reborn every 30 years or so. Being an alien opens up to a whole new set of parameters and a whole new set of possibilities. We are just now discovering how to camouflage things militarily. If it comes from another place, we don't know what tech it has. It could have been sent here as a punishment or sent here to keep the population down, but its mate died, so it's all by itself. In the end, the Jersey Devil is whatever you decide it to be. Unless we find some carcass or get some big indisputable evidence like video from a police cruiser or a fighter jet that has a video of a flying creature, I don't think that we can say completely with great surety what the Jersey Devil is. I have some ideas on how it started with Benjamin Franklin name calling, and it might have coincided with a real life animal creature sighting and then the two combined. Or maybe mother leads 13 child, since it's not on record, was something monstrous, and she didn't want to get blamed for having a 13th child in a time period that doesn't have good feelings towards the number 13. I have no strong feelings other than this creature has stood the test of time, avoided being found by anyone. In the ranks in the realm of dragons, dragons are nearly in every culture across history and across the world. But yet, we've never really found a real dragon skeleton that's definitely, absolutely been identified as a dragon. So, the options are open. On the next Surely a Mystery, I'm thinking of expanding on an earlier episode by taking a look at the witches of New Jersey. That topic has a very strong connection to Benjamin Franklin, yet again. He started another rumor with his printing press that took fire in New Jersey about a witch trial that didn't really ever happen. So, thank you for listening again to our journey into the mysterious ghost children of New Jersey. And if you can, please leave a 5-star review when you can. And until the next time, this is Anna, your living host from the beautiful Long Beach Island, New Jersey, hoping that you stay healthy, safe, and constantly searching for new things and new truths.